The story begins with Shin dashing through the city in a hurry because he is late for an entire hour, despite having set alarms that did not work for him. He describes himself as a failure of a boyfriend for making his Hizumi, his girlfriend, wait for him for an entire hour, despite the fact that it is their long-awaited date when he calls his girlfriend. His Hizumi looks at him with a cold, disappointed expression. Kazumi questions Shin if he slept last night and took any caffeine. Add to that, she also wanted to know if he said an alarm, which he did, but despite all of his efforts in preparing to that extent, he still couldn't do his responsibility of waking up early. His girlfriend mocks him by making an example on how would he handle if he became an office worker for 2 entire years, seeing as how he is a fully fledged, jobless but also useless individual, pointing out it's not relevant to him either way. This made Shin shivered as he stared at her blankly. Shin quivers and shakes as he breathes heavily, almost crying himself, but the girlfriend doesn't seem to mind and just smiles, paying no attention to his condition. Shin is confused by the situation as she takes his hand and leads him away. Behind her unknowingly, Hizumi smiles as she drags Shin away, almost as if she enjoys giving her boyfriend this treatment and gaining enjoyment from it. This date was arranged jointly with Shin, for which he vouched so much. As they sat in their seats, Shin excitedly talks about the intricacies of the movie, detailing its popularity and leaving it to him the gags in it. As the movie begins, Hizumi is enjoying the show, but suddenly her eyes saw something to his surprise. Shin is sleeping away, as he almost dropped the popcorn in his hands, which Hizumi took from him, as she leans forward smiling happily, admiring Shin in his sleeping status, questioning if she really likes him or not by her words earlier. After the movie ended, Shin apologizes profusely, asking for forgiveness for sleeping through the show, which he is the one that suggested watching it together. Hizumi points out his behavior again and again, that it was already enough, and she doesn't mind. With a blank face, Izumi mentions being personally quite satisfied with it. Although she finds the movie plenty amusing, she also pointed out seeing something even more interesting than the movie. Shin is confused and wanted to know what she's talking about, although she doesn't want to talk about it, keeping it a secret from him. Which she reminds him, that's the penalty for sleeping off. While they are together, as the food arrived, Shin immediately thought of finishing it quickly as a way to make it up for her to talk about the movie and explain it. Which right after finishing, he talked about the movie and how was it for Izumi. And the scene she watched so far, Shin expected his girlfriend to be satisfied and happy with his doings, but unbeknownst to him, she pointed out all of his behavior of being a quick eater. Not to compliment him, but she reminds him that he should adjust his eating. Pace just a little bit to match with his partner in a date like this, but he also questions his behavior of starting a one-sided conversation, all while the other part is busy chewing their food, showing unsatisfactory towards them. She teases him in a foul attitude, that if he's trying to tell her that eat your meal, while I mouth off on my own and use your nerves to sense in time or reply for a gap between my talks. Questioning if those cruel words are towards her, Shin on the other side of the table apologizes, not intentionally meaning that towards her, although this made him in fear and nervous at the same time as she laughs as she points out. Using those words on repeat for the entire day, just like a toy Shin almost tearing up wonders what he has been doing all day. As he shakes visibly, Hizumi apologizes and brushes her malicious words off as she could at least tell that he isn't doing this on purpose and just got way too heated about his favorite thing after all, which she tells him to relax and eat his food calmly. The next following moments is followed by silence as she finishes her food, which Shin is wondering if she has forgiven him or just plain exasperated as he is always trying to find himself catch a glimpse of her. Expressions as the date ends and leave the restaurant, Hizumi insisted on covering for him, as Shin thanks but also told her he will pay it back later. But just like all the other times, he finds himself looking at her eyes, as though those eyes could see through him. Hizumi called out to Shin as she described their dinner being the most delicious one she had in a while, as she smiles toward Shin, which on the other hand, Shin describes her expression and smile to be unreadable. Shin gazes her blankly, questioning what does she mean by this. After Shin walked her to the bus stop, he still profusely apologized, pointing out his mistakes earlier and causing her trouble, which he points out that she must be disillusioned with him, especially he is useless. Han would obviously be abandoned. Hizumi, on the other hand, talks about a person repeating their own mistakes over and over and seeking to be forgiven, shivering like a newborn puppy, all while being gloomy face all day, questioning if anyone exists, if they would be happy with being a person like that, faced with this horrible truth. Shin ultimately faced her head-one as a sign of wanting to break up, which in return as a man and loser, he wanted to make it up to her, wanting to learn from his mistakes, asking her to not yet break up. But as he bowed his head, he suddenly met a stutter from her phone as she took a picture, teasing him on his amusing face. Hizumi wanted Shin to know she had a lot of fun and doesn't mind it at all, and apologizes for making him feel anxious multiple times today, which she got closer and leans towards him, reminding him that she likes him, asking for forgiveness for her actions towards him, as she giggles and laughs a bit with a cold demeanor. Shin, not believing her words, also mentions he likes her too, which he got abruptly interrupted as the bus arrives. Bidding farewell, wanting to see him again with Shin, like a crybaby almost teared up from their goodbyes. Shin describes her departure weirdly, odd as she would always say the words, "I will see you again," questioning what if she likes in a guy like him, having no idea this made Shin like her even more. As even though he is useless, she wants to see him again, which she wants to become someone suitable for her, even just a tiny bit showcasing a glimmer of change to meet her standards. All Shin wants is to graduate from being a worthless person for Isumi-sak. Meanwhile, on the bus, Isumi is admiring the picture she took, and the moments he made a useless and begging face, laughing creepily as she describes her feeling of happiness, getting satisfaction and pleasure from his behavior, and also his pitiful actions, which begs the question, does she likes him based off his innocent personality? We transition to Hizumi as she works in her computer, calling Shin he just caught a cold, recently unfortunate that he gets infected. Shin on the phone mentioning not being able to do anything because of his condition, which Hizumi mentioned of coming by later to visit him, as right now he really can't do anything, like a useless person at all, after a short trip to the pharmacy. She shortly arrives at Shin's apartment where he is soaked in sweat and is coughing badly due to his fever. He apologizes for the inconvenience he caused to her. Isumi, on the other hand, describes his appearance as someone who got totally dressed down. She handed his medicine and describes it's her first time visiting his place, which unfortunately is full of disappointment as it's quite a mess in there. His place looking like a rundown but almost abandoned place full of rotten things or broken things, which she teases him, looking like his way of life, which Shin is hurt by the reality of this. Shin apologizes as he was so busy back when he was working and didn't have time to clean up after himself, and before he knew it became a part of his daily life. Jumi, not accepting this, wants Shin to relax, as she doesn't mind the mess at all, and insists on making a few days of portions for him, as she could only stay over and look after him. Jumi reminds him to not let her cooking go to waste, which he absolutely agrees. Although he again wanted to graduate from being a useless person, he couldn't believe that he caused trouble for his Zumi-san again as she was about to set a timer for her cooking. She immediately noticed something in the room that got her attention. She immediately questioned the high school yearbook that he had, which upon taking a closer look in the photos, he pretty much didn't change at all, although it's his mentality that for sure changed much since then. Back then, his student life throughout high school didn't go smoothly at all, and once he graduated, he expected it would become just a little bit better. Although when he graduated, he is faced with the people of the company. He worked, it kept getting bossy and mad at him, always throwing fits at him, not bearing at all. He threw down the towel after 2 years, and as he is right now, she is facing bear witness off as becoming of a useless person, laughing as he mentions this. Jokingly, Hizumi points out that he became under the impression of just becoming happy once becoming an adult. He pretty much didn't put an effort of thinking things through and ultimately misjudged his place of work, becoming an unemployed man with quite the naive outlook, not denying the Shin agreed sadly, which in return she turned something into a positive, as he landed in a path where he managed to be able to eat her own home cooking as she served the food. She wonders what would be the impressions to Shin based off on her own cooking. As Shin ate the food, he is mesmerized, complimenting its tastefulness and deliciousness, which Jumi is glad for him as he is fond of her cooking. His Shin is finishing up his food. Hizumi once again looked at his yearbook, questioning what was his student days where, which she quietly mentions hers. Shin wondering what he thought of her high school days were, on how her youth played out or her love unfolded, asking Shin to try and imagine what kind of girl she was. Back then Shin didn't hesitate as his curiosity got the best of him, questioning what kind of love was in her youth as he created a scenario where he put himself and Hizumi in a classroom, mocking him for being a useless person. Hizumi then teases him inside this dream that she will come inside his room from now on and will educate him every night from the basics to the attentively, patiently wanting to study lots and lots. As she giggled, Shin immediately blushed, trying to deny the accusation Hizumi made against him using her in his fantasies as he laid down and fell asleep. She describes him as a strange person, but that night he faced a nightmare. This nightmare made him remember the bad memories he has from childhood, degrading him as dirty and also being filthy to his boss, shouting and mocking him for not being able to work efficiently as they all described him as a useless person. The sudden nightmare woke up as he breathed heavily, although unbeknownst to him, Hizumi was watching him sleeping, trying to wonder what he is dreaming about. Hizumi describes his condition to worsen that he was really having it bad with the fever, and it looked like he will pass away alone if no one else was here with him, which she preferred looking at him as he die, which she reminds him that this is the only time she get to witness something amusing, and it occurred to her that she wanted to sear this image deep in her mind. Shin find this scary thought to be unpleasant, which she was only teasing him, although Shin apologizes again for making her sleep in a filthy bed, and it must have been unpleasant to sleep next to him as the room seems a bit dirty. Hizumi doesn't find this inconvenience to be annoying and assured him as a way to help his condition get better. She gestured at him, wanting to let out her calm, but also ease feelings she get from his place, although it could help if it were a bit more tidier.